Over the past few weeks we have been voting for what our favourite Mass Effect 3 multiplayer character was. Now that the votes have been counted, I can reveal the top 10 multiplayer characters as voted by us as a community as we count down to Mass Effect Andromeda's release. So let's take a look at the character who made the number 5 slot, the N7 Fury Adept. Introduced again in the Earth DLC pack, the N7 Fury Adept was a flashy Adept character. At the time, she came with 2 unique abilities, which would later be transferred to other characters, Annihilation Field and Dark Channel. When she was first released, these made her very unique. Although she was a standard human, she did have normal health and shields when compared to the other classes in the game. She had average movement speed as well, although she had a few unique passives thanks to her biotic abilities. But going back to her abilities, firstly, she had Annihilation Field. You could activate this ability, after which it would remain on for a fairly long duration of time. When active, the aura would surround the N7 Fury, providing a damage over time debuff for anyone who got close to her. The damage could be fairly substantial as well, even though it was just a damage over time effect. The only downside was you had to be close to your opponents for them to be affected by the Annihilation Field. It also did decent damage to barriers and armoured opponents. Against foes who had no protection whatsoever, if they were caught within the field's radius, they would become panicked, similar to if they had been hit by a burning ability. On top of that, foes who were close to the N7 Fury, who had been affected by the Annihilation Field, would be primed for a biotic explosion. However, they would only remain primed as long as they remained close enough to the N7 Fury. The N7 Fury could then capitalise on this by activating her own biotic explosions with her other abilities like Throw. Lastly, Annihilation Field could be detonated manually to deal a huge chunk of damage. On top of that, it would also detonate biotic combos. The damage was in a radius around the N7 Fury. For me personally, one of the best things about Annihilation Field was when you specced deep down into the Annihilation Field tree, taking talents such as Drain, which drained 100% of the damage done to enemy shields and barriers to restore your own shields, giving you extra survivability as long as Annihilation Field remained active. Her next ability was Dark Channel, a wonderful debuffing damage over time ability. Once cast on an opponent, this plague of biotic energy would persistently damage them over a fairly long duration. This would also prime them for biotic explosions, so you could follow that up again with the detonation of Annihilation Field or your final ability, Throw. You could also use this ability to prevent enemies from recharging their shields or barriers, so long as Dark Channel remained active on them. The other great thing about Dark Channel was that when the target dies with Dark Channel active on them, then the plague will spread to a nearby target, as if you had cast Dark Channel on them. The only downside about Dark Channel was you could only have one plague active at any one time, although this never stopped me from recasting it on other opponents when I wanted to set up quick biotic combos. Her third and final ability was Throw, which is a standard adept ability found on a lot of classes. It's been a staple of the Mass Effect game. Basically, the adept character, the N7 Fury in this case, will throw a biotic blast through the air at opponents. This doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it can knock enemies back. On top of that, for the N7 Fury, it is a great tool to activate all of your biotic combos that can be set up by your other abilities. It's also got a very fast recharge time. Throw could also be used to set off tech combos if you had tech-based allies in your team. As for the N7 Fury's passives, these were pretty standard what you would find on other human characters. She had stuff to increase her power damage, which I would advise on this character because she was very power focused, as well as increasing her health and shields if you weren't confident enough, especially on the harder difficulties. Her melee attacks were very flashy. She could string together a combo if you tapped the melee button, and in between each hit, she would teleport slightly. Her heavy melee as well was a huge biotic blast, very similar in ways to the Asari heavy melee attack. And finally, her dodge mechanics were quite wonderful, as they would allow her to teleport short distances at the expense of some of her barrier strength. The good thing about her dodge mechanics and her heavy melee was that it could be used to teleport through walls, as long as they weren't too thick. This could get you out of dangerous situations easily. As for weaponry, I would always advise a light loadout. She could be a beast with her power abilities, an absolute terror if played right. The only downside is she may be a little bit fragile. The N7 Fury, if played right, can definitely take on the harder difficulties in the game, but like I said, she is fragile and she does need the support of teammates to be at her absolute best. For me personally, the N7 Fury was one of my top 5 characters, maybe even my favourite character in the game. I'm glad she has made the list, as she was one of my go-to characters. Anyway, disclaimer as always, this list is a popularity contest, so to speak. The list has been comprised of votes, as voted by us as a community, to who our favourite character in the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer was. Not necessarily who is the best at tackling the harder difficulties in the game. Also, don't forget to check back soon as we reveal the number 4 slot. Anyway, until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you the top 10 Mass Effect 3 multiplayer characters. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.